fund here recently. Pray for all of our children, our families, as they go about their business in Pawnee, as they travel. I pray for each and every one on this council as we make these decisions, as we go forward for the welfare of our people. Thank you, our Father.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. All right. The roll call, please, if you would, Secretary Gardapi.
Walter Echohawk.
Tita Ku, here.
Canuho. Here. George Gardapi here. Carol Chapman.
Here.
Cynthia Butler.
Here.
Donna here.
Itaku.
Gene Evans.
Dr. Evans is not present, but I'm going to excuse him for the time being in the hopes that he will be joining us as we go along here.
Sammy Kimball.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum, and our next item is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Secretary, I understand we have a number of items to add to the agenda. Could you illuminate us?
Yes,
please.
We do have a few changes on number 3 under new business. Number 3, instead of it saying resolution 2192, we need it to say statute 2104. And then on we'll add number 4 on the next item under new business, and then number 5 will be approval of resolution 2194 AARPA allocation COVID division premium pay, and then number 6 will be approval of resolution 2195 ARPA allocation ICW assistant premium pay. And those are the changes for today.
Okay, thank you for that. Council, are there any other items to be added or any other amendments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve as amended, please?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. We do have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, call for the vote if you would, sir, please.
Jordan Canuho.
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman.
Yes.
Cynthia Butler.
Yes.
Donna Hare.
Aho.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much, folks. We do have an agenda then. And the first item on the agenda as amended is open forum. And I would like to welcome any of our tribal members who may have tuned in today. Jamie, are there anyone that wishes to address the council at this time?
No questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. So with that, let's move forward. First item up in the new business is approval of amendments to Resolution 21-71 ARP allocation Unity Healthcare. And do we have a presenter on that, please?
Brian.
Yes, let me pull it up. This one. Wait, here, give me a second. I'm almost there. This was which one? Resolution 21 what?
21-71 ARP allocation for the Unity Healthcare.
Oh, okay.
You're the
Yes.
president.
Yes, thank you. Sorry it took me so long. I had to go through all the files and teams. But okay, so what we were doing was we're just amending this resolution because when we were looking at internal processes, it was a little bit complex of what our physical policies are in place. So when going back and looking at this, it was kind of just following similar suit that we've done with other contracting through CARES and with ARPA funding. So what we wanted to do was just kind of change the language on here to basically amend this resolution and to do a contract with Unity Healthcare Association to take initiative of the vaccination project. You know, I think last weekend we had, I think 38 vaccinations. We give out vaccinations at least once a month, depending on the demand. But this is just to help take initiative that helps the Pawnee Nation from a different capacity with the expertise of personnel from a physician standpoint to provide these services that Pawnee Nation itself can't offer due to the fact that we don't have physicians and things like that in-house. So this was just basically moving this into a contract to continue their efforts in mitigating this spread and hopefully get more vaccinations in our community that not only protects our tribal members, but the community as a whole. So that's to give a synopsis of it.
All right, well, thank you for that. Council, are there any questions of Brian on this resolution? Questions or comments?
President, I would just like to say that this was changed after a meeting just to have a stronger procedure for reporting. Lacey met with us and explained it in detail. So that's why it's amended to a contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Folks, any other comments?
Yes, President, this is Jordan.
Yes, sir.
So with this being a contract now, does that, I noticed on the resolution, it's Pawnee Nation Vaccination Project. So is that pretty much what Unity Healthcare is going to be doing, just vaccinations? Is that all the $75,000 is going to be? And with that as well, with us contracting them, do we need any documentation from them at the end of this expenditure?
Yeah, so we're going to have, I mean, the scope's pretty much similar to what we sent in with our proposal. Nothing has changed on that. I mean, vaccination is going to be a huge component of our outreach, but, you know, we'll still be able to provide, COVID testing, treatment, education, things around the community as well. So the scope has not changed, but we will provide, you know, financial documentation. I met with the CEO of Unity of what we're going to expect back reporting. So there would be detailed spreadsheets, receipts, and so forth. So we know that everything on our end when we come back to reporting is accountable, but she's well aware of that, and she's in agreement with this. So we'll have make sure that we have all that documentation for us. But that really changed.
She being Lacey, is that who you're talking about?
No, we have a CEO for Unity. Her name is Kelly Davis.
Oh, okay.
So she's already doing similar things. So she's familiar with this. So I kind of told her like what we would expect back. You know, especially that we're using ARPA funding that's a little bit more detailed on the reporting side of it. And she was all in agreement that, you know, I mean, if you want receipts, dollar for dollar, payroll, I mean, she's more open to give that documentation just for our files and have that open transparency. for the nation, just in case we need it down the road.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, when I see vaccination project, I mean, to me, it just seems like it's just one core thing. And if we're doing more services outside of that, I didn't know if the name really would imply that we needed to expand that any, but I mean, if everybody else is okay with that, that's fine.
I mean, if you want to add like vaccination and COVID outreach, I mean, we can add that quick little word in there that kind of just broadens the horizon.
Yeah, that might be a nice touch. And I see Sammy's hand is up. Sammy?
Yes, I would highly recommend that we identify what we're, being a little bit more specific and granular when we're describing what we're spending the money on, because somebody 10 years down the road is going to pull this resolution and other resolutions and not see the big picture. And I think it's just important historically that we make a note of everything that money is, going to, if we can, at least a synopsis. That'd be my recommendation. I follow Jordan. Thank you.
That's a good point, and it's very well taken by me as well.
Can we put some of the scope of work in that wording?
Well, we'll have that detail breaking down in our contract. So that would just be documentation to strengthen this resolution. So that will be broken down in our detail in our contract. I mean, I could put that in the resolution, but I just assume that would be just some follow documentation that if it got pulled, they can go and refer back to the contract, and then everything that is being delivered would be that kind of like overarching packet. But I'll put in here, just basic, if, would be, COVID testing, treatment, education, and vaccinations for individuals in Pawnee County and the surrounding area. Would you want, does that sound good?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, even on the Pawnee Nation vaccination project, even if you put Pawnee Nation vaccination and mitigation project, just so that we know we're doing testing and we're doing, other things other than vaccination, because the way I see it is just this resolution is going to make it imply that that's all we spent $75,000 on is just to get people vaccinated, and we're almost done with 2021, and I think most people who've been vaccinated is, and so to me, it would just imply that we spend a lot of money on vaccinating maybe, another few hundred people or so, but that would be my only recommendation.
Okay, I could definitely add the mitigation part to it.
Thank you. Folks, any other comments on this? Oh, I see Donna's hand is up. Donna, the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, my mute was on. Will this be a sole source contract? Or is it just being switched to contract form?
I think it'll be sole source. I think with the efforts that have been in the works already, and they've been, utilizing this facility for many months now, I think we can justify that, the sole source is deemed reasonable.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Thank you, Donna. Any other comments? Questions of Brian? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve this resolution, please?
I'll make the motion. We approve the unity resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Donna. We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion on the motion at this stage? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, call for the vote, please.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardner, PES, Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Oh, yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries. Next item up is Resolution 21-78, ARPA allocation, premium pay, COVID staff, PP 14. And who is going to present on this resolution, please?
All right, I can go ahead and explain it. The council has previously approved premium pay. However, our policies were not adequate, and we have finished getting all the policies in place in HR, and this is finishing out some original decisions of the council for premium pay. It says extra duty pay on the.
Yeah, this
It's
one is
changing the
supposed.
premium pay to extra. To
Oh,
follow
that's
the
right.
policies that were
This-
approved.
That's right. That it was the wrong word. Yes.
So this is almost ministerial in nature. Is that correct, Carol?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I did want to mention that the price, the 1871.40, replacing the 72.23, has not really been agreed upon. There's I would suggest that we're gonna have to table this because it's gonna need a meeting outside of this council to figure out with administrative staff the right figure. We want to make sure that it's being followed the right amount, because different entities have different numbers. So we do need to change it to extra duty pay, because that's what we were talking about. It should have never been premium pay. That was my fault, like I said previously. But yeah, the amounts are not haven't all been agreed upon. So
It sounds like this might need more work, and therefore it may be appropriate to table. I see Vice President Canujo's hand is up. I'll recognize you, sir.
Thank you, President. What is the extra duty that they're doing outside of their normal job duty?
this still goes back to the July 4th celebration holiday, where we had them out there, distributing checks. And we, council wanted to do something for them, but we're still trying to make sure that, it's all backed by policies and that everybody agrees upon the right amount of pay. So.
Okay. And so with that, Secretary Gardapi, you're saying that we need to table this?
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Thank you, council. We have a motion and we also have a second. I did see a hand up before we go to the vote. Attorney General Smith, I'll recognize you.
Yes, sir. I could make one suggestion on this because so it doesn't delay the payment going back and forth. I suggest you might just put in the resolution an amount not to exceed. So, so it would give the authority to the staff to pay it whenever they ultimately reconcile and agree to it, and it doesn't have to come back to the PBC for any further delay.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that too. I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, we've addressed this. This is the second time we've addressed it. Maybe if we could forestall a third time on this issue, that would be great in the interest of time and efficiency. That does sound like a nice proposal.
I'm in favor.
So in that instance, I would be looking for a motion to approve with that amendment to this document. That is, it's set not to exceed a certain amount.
I'll
Would it
make
be
a
appropriate
motion.
just to say $2,000? Because it looks like it's not going to go over that.
Sounds like a good idea. Not to exceed two grand. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion, folks? Hearing none, call for the vote, please, sir.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardner, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes,
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries, and thank you, Attorney General, for your suggestion in moving this forward. Next item is approval of the Resolution 21-92, Pawnee Nation Dakuda Da Chitisu. And who is going to present on that, please?
I'll present on this one. This is this is the government or the document that's coming from governing documents for council approval. This is the Declaration of Respect, and I'll say it again: Pawnee Nation, Dakuda Da Chitisu. I've been practicing that. So this means the Pawnee language, it means respect. And I'll read a little bit about what the resolution says. The purpose of this declaration is to ensure all Pawnee Nation elected and appointed officials have a shared understanding of the principles to make good decisions for the Pawnee Nation. All Pawnee Nation elected and appointed officials will have a shared understanding on the expectations of conduct and behavior towards all persons based on the Pawnee cultural values and attributes. And as I said, this came from the Governing Documents Committee and worked on this for a couple of months, and finally had a document to present to the council, and we're recommending for approval.
Thank you for that. Let me just add, council, that this also, I think, fulfills the council's part in implementing the principles of professionalism that were discussed by Elizabeth Homer in the dispute resolution seminar. We had asked the TDC board as well as the Gaming Commission to incorporate those teachings into their SOPs, and so this would do the same, only government-wide. And it would be the Business Council's part in instilling and promoting professionalism by the elected and appointed tribal officials throughout the government. And so this fulfills, I think, our part in trying to promote professionalism in all and everything that we do here. Folks, are there any questions, comments of Cynthia at this time? I see a hand up, Vice President Canuho.
Yes, thank you, President Hawk. You know, we've talked about this. The council has talked about this and had a scoping meeting on this declaration. And my stance on it hasn't changed on it. I just feel that, to me, it's excessive to make this into a statute, into a law. For me personally, it's just you can't legislate respect. You can't legislate behavior. You expect your elected officials to uphold the Constitution. You expect your elected officials to uphold what they what they swore when they were sworn into office. Each one of us here on the council, each one of us put our hand on the Holy Bible. We were sworn into office by a judge to certain standards, and so we obviously have to uphold to those standards. Whenever we don't, there's procedures in place within the Constitution that gives certain guidance to remove an elected official from office. And the people took that into their hands last year. It was witnessed last year during the recall elections that we've had. The people used their constitutional right to correct a lot of things that was going on because they've seen what was happening within the government and the leadership there. And so to me, I mean, this is coming from me, from the position. I've read this over and over. I've went through this and everything else. A lot of it does to me just kind of reiterate what is in our oath of office as elected officials. And to me, if we wanted to ensure that people are protected in those kinds of things, I believe there's other ways we can go about doing that rather than legislating a law to try and cause us to behave in a certain way or be professional in a certain way. At the end of the day, you're going to get wild cards that are going to be elected into office. That's just part of that's just the nature of politics. That's the nature of how things go sometimes. But I trust our membership. I trust the Pawnee Nation. I trust our Constitution to correct any of those issues that come up like that. Again, we've witnessed that last year and how effective it was, and we've made great strides out of that as a result of it. So to me, I see this, it was well thought out. I understand. And I think, we're on the same page of trying to get to a point where we can ensure that our elected officials and appointed officials, I'm not trying to leave them out either, but I'm just looking more at the elected officials from my stance where I'm at. I believe that there are things set in place to handle those situations and issues that are going on. For appointed officials, we as the supreme governing body of the Pawnee Nation appoint board members, we appoint commissioners, we appoint committee members. The president has that authority to appoint committee members. But we also have within our purview to be able to remove individuals as a cause comes up because of that in these appointed positions as well. And so to me, I mean, I get where we're going with this. I see what the point of this is and the professionalism and everything else, but I just stand on the basis of you can't legislate behavior. You can't legislate how a person's going to behave and everything else and expect them to abide by that. I mean, in my personal view from that. And so, like I said, I mean, I think there's other ways we can go about doing this to ensure that, some people's, areas are respected and everything else without having to pass a statute, which is essentially it's a law that's going to go into our tribal law and order code. So that's just the way I look at it. And so I just want to express that much.
Okay, thank you for that, Vice President. I would just say that on this to the council that in my view, from day one, it is okay for this council to disagree on matters. I know that everyone on this body are intelligent people, and we all share a deep love for our people and want to do the best thing. But I also, and we always strive for consensus in things that we do, and I think we've been very, very successful in doing so. We've had our debates, and it's fine to disagree, to debate, because I think that always results in honing our decisions to make them the best possible ones. And I do, above all, I really respect Vice President and his opinion that he has rendered here. I happen to disagree respectfully. In my view, I think that this legislative proposal closes a loophole about our appointed officials as well as our elected officials. There is a need for something here because I've witnessed some of the unprofessional conduct of the prior councils. I couldn't believe what I was seeing take place there in some of those meetings. And so it does serve to close a loophole to provide some guidelines for conduct, some accountability by our appointed as well as elected officials. And it is true what Vice President says that we do have a constitutional remedy at the ballot box. The only problem that I have with that is that it's cumbersome, it's expensive, and it's very time consuming. And to wait that long on a debilitating matter, I think cripples the smooth operations of our government. And I think that this goes a long way towards instilling professionalism. But anyway, I see a couple hands up. I don't know what order they came up. I will, yes?
Before we move on,
Yeah.
can I rebuttal
Sure.
on that? I mean, that's true. That is true. You know, it is time consuming, it's cumbersome, it's costly and everything else, but it's effective too.
Right.
You know,
we've seen it work.
Yeah, we can't deny the fact that the people took matters into their hands and corrected it.
Yeah.
And
That's so true.
I stand on that. Yeah, I stand on, you know, I trust our tribal members to be able to recognize, and they did. They recognized an issue, and they've took, you know, we went through the recall process, and I'm a result of that as far as finishing out the term of my predecessor and everything else, and some of you here on this council are as well. And it was because the people was at that point, and I think it comes to that point, and so definitely I still stand by, you know, just trusting in our Constitution, trusting in our people to witness and see what's going on, and take that to that point. And so I do respect what you said too, President, at that as well, and we do. We have good conversations. We're able to agree to disagree at times, and still move forward and do what we need to for the nation, because, you know, I really do believe every one of us has what's best for the nation at heart at the end of the day.
Yes, that's true. And I thank you for that. And I too am a result of the voters who I think came to the aid of the nation at a time of turmoil and unprofessionalism, and made their voices known at the ballot box. And so I thank you for that reminder. I'd like to recognize, I believe Carol had her hand up first, and then I'll go to Dr. Evans, and then to Donna Hare. Carol, the floor is yours.
Had to turn my microphone on. First of all, I would like to say again, I like it that we all try to come to a consensus, but that we do all agree to disagree in a good way. So I would like to say on this one, without repeating everything that Vice President Canujo said, I am in total and complete agreement with him. I was in the scoping meeting, and I stand by my original stance on that. And I am standing behind the Constitution. And I do not agree to put any law in place as a statute. And that will be my vote. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. And as I say, you know, we strive for to be for consensus, but you know, it is okay to disagree, and I understand that. And Lord knows we see disagreement in our U.S. Congress. You know, they can't agree whether the sky is blue. You know, and so that's certainly you can take it to extremes, such as what we see today in Congress, but we're not there by any stretch of the imagination. Dr. Evans, I'll recognize you at this point.
Thank you, President Echo Hawk. just have to have a, you know, we're so often that we all find a way to agreement, and but I appreciate that we have the ability to talk and even in disagreement to respect each other. And that's within this group an amazing thing. Having said that, we know that is not likely to be the case in every council. So I think looking at this, to me, this really has minimal punitive power, right? I mean, at worst, it's a little mediation. Instead, I think it's clearly codifying, demonstrating our expectations of honor and decorum, right? So, and I think it's good to have that expectation in a clear way, as part of our government, as part of our legal framework. Even if it isn't something that, you know, you have the ability to do some aggressive legal something to somebody, the key is you got to be the ability to say, that wasn't right. You know, that was dishonorable. You know, there, and I would rather see that happen than the removal of somebody, you know, what expense and all that. But, you know, I think people get on, you know, there's a reason people get on the council, and most of the time they have something worth giving. You know, I hate the only answer to be that they've got to go through a vote and the government has to make such a large adjustment. So that's my thought. I just think that being proactive is a better answer, and that there's power in just the ability to say, you know what the expectancies are, and if not, we can officially say that wasn't honorable. You know, quit that. So my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. I'll go to Donna here. Floor is yours, Donna.
Thank you, President Echohawk. I want to stand in support of this resolution because I have seen some of the conduct through my 30 years of, you know, being associated with the tribe, and the lack of being able to handle it and deal with it and resolve it in a timely manner, and not have to go to that extreme of removing a council person, you know, from office. There's a large number of members on this committee that are tribal employees or have been tribal employees, and 3 of them are in the executive office, so they have witnessed it, you know, closely, and one is the chief of police, and he's witnessed, you know, some of this. So I really feel that they have seen it and they know the need, and I support this resolution.
Thank you for those remarks. And folks, could I ask if everybody, I mute your mics if when you're not using them. I heard all kinds of racket while Donna was trying to speak. Okay, I see Attorney General Smith, your hand is raised, sir. I'll recognize you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to participate in the discussion. I represented the nation in the controversy of last year. It was expensive, it's adversarial. And I think one of the values of this resolution and ordinance is to try to prevent the adversarial situations that were in the past. If you can talk at the beginning and try to share expectations and reconcile them, it can prevent some of the animosity and adversarial situations we saw last time. And it's really applying cultural values, trying to keep things on a non-adversarial basis, try to come to a place where we have to agree to disagree. The other 2 things that I think is valuable is that it creates some safe harbor for some behavior. For example, accepting official gifts. It removes any question about the those kind of things. And then the other place that provides protection is actually for some employees, and particularly we've heard the stories about appointed officials somewhat overreaching or a bit too ambitious in their enforcement, and employees feeling intimidated. So it gives them a non-adversarial way to signal the appointed officials that we need to have a discussion and find a smoother and better way to do things. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you. I think that's very wise in the name of the efficiency of the government. So, folks, any other comments at this time? I see a Vice President's hand is up, and I recognize you, sir.
Thank you, President. Couple questions for my clarification, edification, and also for tribal members who are watching as well. So one is why is this presented as a statute? What's the purpose behind it being a statute?
I'll defer to Cynthia and Attorney General on that question, but a statute, it seems to me, is government-wide. It is a permanent kind of a fixture. Of course, all laws can be amended. But it seems like, and this is a lawmaking body. In other words, we're empowered under the Constitution to be lawmakers. We pass a lot of resolutions, we pass a lot of little motions, and we can also pass statutes, which would be codified and go into the law books. I think that on important matters that affect the entire government, we expect it to be, as a matter of policy, to be throughout our government. It isn't appropriate to put it into a statute. It rises to that level of gravity. We want a professional government to instill professionalism all the way around to avoid disruptions, adversarial, to try to stem the adversarial quarrels that we have. We're a small tribe. We're all related. We're too small to get into the Hatfield and McCoy's kind of a grudge. We can't operate that way. We simply cannot. So I think that this is the kind of a subject matter that is worthy of a statute. We had thought about maybe appending it as a policy to the HR policies and procedures, but that doesn't apply to PBC members. There's a loophole that we need to close there. It doesn't apply to elected officials either, I don't think. I think it just applies to employees only. So we need to figure out where is the best way to put it. There's probably no material difference that I can think of between a statute or a policy of some kind. So it could be an either or situation, I would presume. I don't know that there is a clear understanding on this body of the difference between what is a statute and why do we have any statutes, but we have a lot of statutes out there, and we are a lawmaking body. So I don't have any qualms with parsing the difference between the two, actually, but this is simply an issue addressing needs that we do have that I think rises to the level of a statute. But again, it's a judgment call. We could conceivably do this in some sort of a non-statutory framework. Those are just my thoughts on it. Cynthia, Attorney General, you all might have additional comments as to why a statute here? Why not a policy or some sort of a memo or something on this.
I feel like that even if it was a policy, it would still be labeled a statute instead of a resolution because it's still something that we're trying to follow and implement. So we're separate what laws and anything from here forward will be a statute whenever it's dealing with ordinances, acts, statutes. That's just how we differentiate from a resolution and a law. So that was our thinking, and that's why we have several of these statutes that have come through as a statute instead of a resolution, because they are law. Policies and procedures that would go through a resolution because it governs different. But for this type of, that's why the governing documents wanted to make it a statute, because we were trying to put it in the law, and all of our acts and all of our ordinances are in the law and order codes, all of them. So that's why when we did the revisions for the tax commission, we're getting ready to do revisions for the museum board. They'll all be statutes because they're all laws. That's what they're governed by. That's how these commissions and boards are governed by their governing documents. So if that gives just a little bit more clarification to why we're separating them, so that because whenever you go back, there are some laws that we might not even know about because they were all done by resolution instead of having to go through every resolution that we've ever had. You know, there were some that we missed. The Business Corporation Act, which was a document that we never knew existed, but then we had to do some research, and there it was, and it was in a box over in archives, but we never had a digital copy of it. We never knew it was really in place. And since the development of that document, then that's why it was decided I would go ahead and separate those types of laws out, so that whenever you go back and you look at it, you'll know what's law and what's not.
Okay, so to me, I mean, I get, everything that was mentioned there. As President Eckhart said too, is it elevates it and everything else to that extent. So, I mean, I guess to me, is the oath of office not sufficient for an elected official?
I think we've had oaths of office since day one, probably since we've been swearing people into office. That has not forestalled unprofessionalism by council members in years past, or conceivably some of our appointed tribal officials as well. So yes, it is helpful to have an oath of office, and it's certainly, if you violate the oath, it's probably grounds for recall election. This sort of takes this oath another step. It elaborates on it. It lays out the expectations. The oath of office is simply a 2 or 3 line thing. It's very general. And I guess the only way you could enforce it is through a recall, a cumbersome and expensive and time-consuming recall election. And this attempts to elaborate on it, make it clear what we're talking about and what we're not talking about, and provides for some remedial measures that are short of adversarial lawsuits and recall elections that so crippled our government in the recent year.
So was that a yes or no?
Well, I think it elaborates, as I say. No, I apologize for that, but I am a gas bag, but it does elaborate on the oath of office. I mean, we've had the oath of office, and yet I've seen unprofessional conduct by elected officials in years past. So, so it's not a panacea, I guess, that we would hope it would be. You would expect it to be. You would hope it would be, but it has not been. And when it's not, the only remedy was litigation or recall elections, which interrupts the flow of the government. And so I think this is an improvement. I think this is an improvement upon what we have. And I think this council is all about finding ways to improve the government, and we're looking under every rock to do so, and this is just simply another step in that direction, it seems to me.
Okay. I just want to reiterate my question was, so is the oath of office not sufficient? I got from you no, so unless you don't think so.
Well, I would wish that it would. I really wish that it would, but I don't think it's standing alone. It's enough, and the remedies are too drastic. They're too adversarial. They can tear a tribe apart, and I don't know that that's not my cup of tea.
Well, that's unfortunate. I believe the oath is sufficient. You're not putting your hand on just the Constitution. You're not putting your hand on just another book. You're putting your hand on the Bible, and at the very end of your oath, so help me God. I think any one of us who took that oath, council members, every one of you swore before the Pawnee Nation, but you also swore before God not to go beyond the bounds of your responsibilities as a council member. One in particular portion in the oath is do no harm. You can interpret that how you want to as far as do no harm, but to me, treat everybody how you would want to be treated in that as well. So to me, I guess the other question I would have is really, is there teeth in this? If somebody had an issue with me, say an employee at Pawnee Nation didn't like how I was talking to them, or maybe someone heard that I was stealing money or whatever it is. Well, not to that extreme. Maybe it's, this declaration of respect. Maybe they didn't feel like they were being respected by me. I wasn't being professional to them. And I disagree with that individual. Say, I don't want to show up to a no mitigation. I don't want to show up to any kind of, meeting that you're going to hold because I don't believe I did anything wrong. What's the teeth of this, I guess, in that sense?
This legislation does not envision removal. So if you're looking for a removal remedy, you would have to look for it elsewhere in our laws. And as you say, we have remedies to remove people. All this does is to provide a mechanism to address the concern in a non-adversarial fashion, to try to see if it can be resolved in a non-adversarial way without expending $5 or $10 grand on a recall election that will take 2 or 3 months and disrupt the government and be divisive among the people, or a lawsuit that costs 10 or 20 grand in attorney fees. But rather to try to address those, I would say missteps, I guess, or abuses of our position, short of that by a voluntary non-adversarial process. And so that's basically what this act does, I think.
So I wouldn't have to show up to a meeting then. If someone said I had an issue with you, I wouldn't have to, this act wouldn't really have anything to enforce that.
Cynthia, you're most familiar with the procedures and how that act would operate. What would happen if there were a complaint against the president or the vice president that caused some hurt somebody's feelings, a staff member? How would that be resolved under the act? Could I boycott it?
Well, it would come to this body, because then this body actually would make the decision on where it needs to go. So we go through mitigation. Well, then, if it's just one person on council, then we can pick maybe the attorney general to mitigate that situation. It's just up to this body on how they handle it.
But I guess I don't know if I'm not communicating it well.
Mr. Smith has his hand up. I have to hear his answer.
Okay.
Thank you. Basically, the situation that I think probably gives it best an expression of how it would possibly work. Let's say you have a gaming commissioner who is very zealous in doing their duty, and they start going down to the gaming floor and asking employees for their gaming license. and they take them off their work, their machine or whatever, and takes them aside. Well, show me your gaming license. I want to see it right now. Well, the employee is scared to death to say anything. And the gaming commissioner was offensive and rude and such. So it gives that employee a chance to ask for a meeting where you'd have a third party and let the employee say, here's what happened. The gaming commissioner will say, well, this is why I was doing it. This is our duty. Perhaps there's a better way to do this. And then the mediator says, well, yeah, let's try to come to a common understanding. And whether there ends up being a common understanding or not, of what the mediator would do is just write up a quick report. And if it was resolved, then that's the end of it. If it entailed something more significant, a report could be sent to the council. And from that report, council would know if there's a referral that needs to be made for some other reason. So it's really just a way to minimize perceived or real conflict from escalating. And in the case of, say, the council, President Echo Hawk looks at me crosswise and he hurts my feelings, and he hurts my professional. I'm not being light of this. I'm just giving an example. So I could ask for a meeting with him. And say, I want somebody there, President. I want you to express myself on this, and I get to say, I don't think this is professional, and I need you to understand this. And the president says, well, I just didn't realize that was going on, and let's work together and fix it. And then that's the end of it. And if necessary, the arbitrator or the mediator could send a report to the council saying it's over and done, or the mediator could say, that Smith boy, he's just out of line. He's unprofessional. You need to do something about him. And that would go to the council for their consideration. If it really stirred up something of major issue, like for example, a criminal action or a gross breach of constitutional duty, then the council would have a report to deliberate as to what's the next step, whether to refer for criminal investigation or for recall under the Constitution. So that's basically, so to answer your question, Vice President, no, if you didn't show up, that's it. I mean, all the mediator would say is write a report, say Vice President didn't show up, and that's the end of it.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of where I'm glad you got to that answer, because I was wondering about that. I was like, I mean, really, is there anything that's going to really force me to be in this meeting? And if I don't have, because when I'm long gone out of being vice president and, someone else is sitting in this position 5-10 years down the road, however, to me, you don't know who's going to sit in this position. It could be somebody who's in any of our positions who's going to just be like, no, I'm vice president. You don't tell me what to, I'm not going to go to this meeting. I didn't do anything wrong. And so they just write the report and then give it to the council. Is that what I hear?
Yes. And here's the other thing. It's really a benefit for the elected and appointed officials, and I've been there, and sometimes I've been so caught up with something else that I say something or do something that wasn't intended that way. And it's the last thing in the world I'd wanted to do was alienate that employee, that supervisor. And if they would bring it to me, most of the time they were scared to do something because you're the chief or you're the supervisor. And so this is a hold harmless kind of mechanism that if I had done something that was offensive to somebody, I'm very thankful that there's a way to get this on the table so I can clear it. We can move on and build a better working environment, and it makes the employee feel, they're valued, their voice is heard. And it's really amazing. This is where I'll end up. It's really amazing how far your employees will work for you as long as they believe their voice is heard. They may not agree with you, but as long as you're listening, many of them will go that extra mile. And so that's really one of the values of a non-adversarial process like this, is the assurance that their voice will be heard, They may not get necessarily what they want, but they're valuable.
Okay, and I mean, I know I'm taking a lot of time, but I mean, I just don't see, to me, it's just excessive to make this into a law and everything else. We could approach it in other ways, but I mean, I just look at this and think that it's going to be used a lot down the road against our tribal leaders. I just expect something to happen like that. Prohibited conduct in this section here, item 3, leaders shall not use his or her public or tribal service for private gain. What if I own a printing business and the ARPA money's there, and I said, hey, I can print out a lot of signs about getting your vaccination for $25,000, resolution signed, it's went through. Somebody can come and say he just made money on the spending everything else for his own personal gain. I think to me it's just gonna I know what we're trying to get with on it, but I think it's gonna cause a lot more problems too down the road as well. I think it's gonna, to me personally, that's just where I stand on it.
Thank you, Vice President. I'll recognize George Gardapi at this time.
Yeah, first of all, I do want to say that I like that we can agree to disagree. I mean, we could debate about this extensively and still have our same opinions. And as far as that goes, I support this declaration simply because it may not have as much teeth as we would hope, but at least it's a step, and it is non-adversarial. We know you can get removed from office for certain offenses. But I like that there is a mediator clause that a third party can come and try to resolve some situations without resulting in removal of offices. And I do also like the fact that it pertains to committees, commissions, and boards members that do get appointed by us. So I mean, I know we could talk about it, but I do want to make the motion to go ahead and approve this.
I'll second.
Thank you, Council. We have a motion and we also have a second. Is there any further discussion on this, please?
President, I got one more real quick. Because I mean, say after we vote and everything else and it goes through and it becomes a law, is this something that could be used in the court? You're a lawyer, you'd probably be able to tell me that.
Any law that we pass could be relied upon if it's relevant for some sort of a judicial proceeding, as well as any policy or anything else.
But it's a law. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I just want the council to keep that in mind, and also to those who, again, I'm thinking of future leaders as well, our tribe as well. But that's about it.
Yes.
Let me respond quickly. There's no judicial review. This doesn't give you a right to court to have anything considered.
Well, I guess my question was, could a portion of this be used in court? I'm not saying that they would actually get judicial review, but more, could this be a piece that someone could use as their defense in court if they didn't ever get to a remedy?
Unless there's, the way I believe it to be written, there's not a way, there's not a judicial review of any action involved in it. When you have a mediator, it's by agreement that you'll sit and visit, and it's non-enforceable in court.
But like I said, I mean, if I can't get to a remedy with what this is, and I believe I have a case, say someone I know is, taking money and whatever, and we can't get to that point, I take it to court, all that stuff. AG Smith, President Hawk, you guys are lawyers. I would assume you would use this in court as a means to win your case. I would assume, but I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
Well, for the serious things, you have to use the criminal law and the constitutional provisions for removal. So this wouldn't help one way or the other if you've got embezzlement or abuse of power, those kind of things that rise to the level of removal or criminal investigation.
Okay.
All right, I see Dr. Evans. Recognize you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Just a real brief thing. You know, I think my thought on this, it can really go down to kind of an underlying thing that, and this is something that allows us the least government damage, least government damaging result. And it allows us to keep our government maximally functioning. You know, and I think it's great that to me, it's a good thing it doesn't have teeth. But it does have the power to say, you know, hey, you need to find a way to make this work. And if you don't publicly, people are going to know, you know, you ran away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Evans. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussions, folks? Mr. Secretary, call for the vote, please.
Jordan Canuho,
No.
George Gardner, yes. Carol Chapman,
You're on mute, Carol.
Secretary Gardapi, I want to vote no and state for the record that I disagree to creating this statute and law, which I view as sidestepping and circumventing the Constitution of the Pawnee Nation.
so noted.
Thank you.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
No, I'd like to go on record also that this Constitution really needs to be revamped, but I just can't support layering law upon our Constitution. Thank you.
All right, motion carries. And thank you, Council, for expressing your opinions and your votes, all of which is well respected by each and every one of us. And this is one of the rare circumstances where our council was not able to act unanimously, and that's okay. With that, the next item is approval of resolution 21-93, Constitutional Convention support. And Cynthia, I take it that you'll be presenting on that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. This resolution comes from the Governing Documents Committee. We are wanting to do a Constitution Convention to do some housekeeping items for the revising the Constitution, small things, but then also to look at the bigger picture. So the Governing Documents is asking for the Business Council support and calling for a Constitution Convention that will start in January of 2022 and end no later than the month of March 2022. And delegating the authority for the committee to do the, you know, provide the to do this, just to do this. We also have in the resolution that we want to do a lottery system. We do have a bulk of the committee, which I hope would include this council, as we all been talking about just a few minutes ago about the Constitution and some of those revisions that need to be made. I would hope that all of you would confirm that you would be in participation with it. We do have the Nasharo Council on board, and we have lawyers, we have other tribal members with government background who are going to be on this committee. But we also wanted to open it up for a lottery of other tribal members who feel that they would like to join this committee as well, this convention committee. So we will be doing a lottery of I think about 20 positions. So it'll have some criteria, you know, just give a little bit about your background and stuff like that. And then we will have, I think our moderator is going to be Phil Gover. should you guys call for this. But he's going to be working with the committee and with the council on getting this done. And we're looking for a report back to council within about 45 days, maybe 30, for the appointment of the convention attendees. So we're bringing this forward to the council for your recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Cynthia. Council, are there any questions or comments for Cynthia? I would just say, go ahead.
Sorry. Only question I had was this originally initiated by the council or is this initiated by governing docs? Because I guess I missed a meeting where we were wanting to have this, but I could be wrong.
No, this is being recommended by the governing documents committee to the council, but the council has to call for this convention. So this is one of the projects that we were looking at doing and wanted to get the council to approve it.
Okay.
Folks, this is simply another step by our government to try to strengthen the nation. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land for our nation. It began as a cookie cutter constitution that was basically created by the Department of Interior. Has been amended sporadically over time. I think that this is a healthy step to convene a convention. I think the committee has looked at about 60 people across the government and across the nation to take part as certified delegates to the convention. And I'm looking for it coming back to this council with some recommendations for a secretarial election to strengthen our constitution and form of government. So this is a very healthy step towards strengthening the government. We want to make sure we have the best possible constitution that we can have, and so that's sort of a labor of love. It's going to require some scholarship, some research, some envisioning on how we want our nation, what we want our nation to look like, and the governance of it. And we want it to be modernized. We want it to be updated. We want to remove any inefficiencies, any barriers to this governing document. Carol, I see your hand is up. I recognize you.
Thank you, President. I would like to say that I am not opposed to having a constitutional convention because it is very important, but I would like to say that I am opposed to the way that it has come to us. It came to us through an unelected committee and did not come before the Pawnee Business Council first. And I do not agree with that procedure, but I am not opposed to a constitutional convention, just the matter of the way it was done, because we are the elected officials, not the unelected committee. That's just my comment. But I am for a constitutional convention.
And that's why we're bringing forward the resolution to the council. And, all of our recommendations for anything that we do come to this body from committees. We deal with that with budget, COVID, IT, everything comes as a recommendation. So we're making that recommendation to this governing body to call for a constitution convention.
I believe that it is such an important thing that it should have come first from the council, discussed first from the council, than from an unelected committee. So I disagree.
Well, they're not unelected, they're actually appointed.
But they're still not elected by the people.
But it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to pass it today, that's fine. But it's up to this body to make that decision. So if you're based on your opinion on that, then if that's the way that everybody else feels that it just needs to come through a different procedure, needs to come from a different place, besides the governing documents committee, then that's perfectly fine.
Thank you. I know, Council, that we have a very proactive governing documents committee, which I think is good. And it's cranking out a lot of really forward-thinking legislative initiatives for this body to consider. But I do not think that it is attempting to usurp the powers of this body. And in fact, it's coming to this body asking for authority to proceed on this. Vice President, recognize you,
Yes,
sir.
thank you, President. To kind of just go off of what Treasurer Chapman said there, that's kind of where I was getting at with that as well. I'm not opposed to a constitutional convention either. I just, to me, governing docs it is a committee that's been appointed. It's a governmental committee as well. But I see the function of the governing docs committee different than a budget committee or agriculture committee and those kinds of things, in the sense of that, as President Echohawk has mentioned a few times through this meeting today, is we're a legislative body. We're a legislative body here with the Pawnee Nation. And in that sense as well, it should initiate from the legislative body certain things. That's just my personal perspective on it as well, on that. But I'm not opposed to a constitutional convention. I know we've discussed before as far as certain items that could probably be looked at and amended in the Constitution. The Governing Docs Committee did a great job last year of getting the secretarial election and the amendment made in the Constitution last year. And so that was one thing that, was a good result of the Governing Docs Committee. But to me, I just want to just reiterate that, is that to me, I view, this is just my personal view, Councilman Butler, is that, to me, I just see the Governing Docs Committee as the committee that, if the council wishes to look at certain existing laws and those kinds of things, to put that on the committee's plate and everything else, not the committee to just go ahead and discuss it within themselves and bring certain things to us on that as well. Like the Declaration of Respect we just passed there. That was initially something we talked about. We discussed about some kind of ethics, code of ethics and everything else. And so that was initiated initially from our discussion, everything from that nature. But I only say that because there's a few things that we're going to be getting into in other meetings. I know that we'll be talking about that didn't originate from the council standpoint, originated from the committee standpoint. And these are laws that are going to be looked at again. So that's my only comment to it as well. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I definitely do want us to look at the Constitution. One question I would ask is, you mentioned the moderator. There's the committee hasn't already been formed or anything else. Is that something that can be later looked at as far as the committee appointing the moderator, or has that already been set?
No, it's not set. Nothing's set in stone. You guys
Okay.
can do, and you guys are the ones who can develop the process. It's up to you guys. You guys should be the ones and I agree with you. I agree that you guys should be the ones initiating this, or just bringing it to light, because we see the need and we've heard tribal members' concerns and we see the need from tribal members. But it's up to you guys. But yes, no, nothing is set in stone at all. We're just initiating it to see if you guys would do it and call for the convention.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, folks, on this? Okay. No other comment? I'm looking for a motion to approve at this point.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second by Dr. Evans. Any discussion on the motion, folks? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, call for the vote, please.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardner, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries unanimously. We're calling for a constitutional convention, folks. This is going to be another historic step by this government. All right. Next, we have approval of resolution.
Sorry, President Echohawk. I do want to thank you guys.
Okay.
And I hope that all of you will be in part of what's going to happen. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be a big change, and it's going to be a lot of discussion because there's a lot of topics we have for discussion from tribal members, and we're going to have all kinds of aspects that come along with it. Tons of town hall meetings, a bunch of surveys that come out of this, and I think that we're really going to be able to produce at the end a great document that governs our government. So thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I can't really remember the last time, maybe some of you can illuminate this, that we've actually held a constitutional convention. We've had little bitty amendments here and there, but never a something where the people actually came together as delegates to review and update our Constitution. So am I wrong on that? Is this another first that this body has is doing? Jamie or Donna? Donna, let's ask Donna and Cynthia if you can recall some similar constitutional convention.
Okay, so the background is coming from me, I think, because I'm at the Center of Sovereign Nations and there's a lot of students. So you guys probably already figured that out. So I was hesitant to talk. But so in around 1995 or 1990, no, it was later, probably 98, Carol Nuttall got an A&A grant, and she tried to do a where we involved everybody, the churches, the service organizations, Chiefs Council. So she tried to bring all the families together. And so that was the only attempt I really knew of, doing a constitution. We started out with amendments, but it turned into a revision. But we didn't have like the constitutional, forum that were, what do you call it? Convention, like you're talking about with delegates. So this would be new in my knowledge.
Excellent. Well, we're forging ahead where no council has ever ventured before, but that's good. All right. Okay. So next is approval of resolution 21-94, ARPA allocation, COVID division, premium pay. And who's going to present on that, please?
Secretary Gardapi, would you like to do that? You have been very involved in it.
Oh, the pressure, Carol.
That's why I did it. No.
No, this is a resolution to approve the COVID division premium pay for two positions, the director and the manager. Manager? What's the word? I don't know. Because the reason why they submitted this is because the other employees who are working over there were already considered to be being in the front lines. So premium pay wasn't considered for them because it was already built into the positions. However, the other two are at the minimum for the normal position when you first start. And them being in, they felt like they go into harm's way for the position. They deal with COVID positive people, or they have in the past, going to people's homes and talking to people. So it was felt that they did qualify for this type of premium pay. However, because the other positions had already had an elevated starting salary, they were not part of this. So that's the resolution that's being brought forth today, coming from the COVID committee.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Folks, any questions of our secretary? I see
Yes.
Sammy's hand is up.
Thank you. George, what is the time frame of this?
This would go back to the same as like the education premium pay. All the premium pays that have been approved up to today have gone back to a June date. I don't remember the June 18th maybe and so just to keep it on, and it should say through the end of December 2022 is what I thought, right, Cynthia? Anyway.
Okay. So it
Yeah,
takes us all through next year.
yeah,
Okay,
we wanted to be in line with all the other programs that we have already approved.
okay.
So that's it.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments, folks? Seeing none, or hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Cynthia. We have a motion now and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call for the vote, Mr. Secretary.
Jordan
Please.
Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Oh, yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries. This brings us to our last resolution, number 21-95, allocation, ARPA allocation, Indian Child Welfare Assistant Premium Pay. And who's going to present on this?
Oh, I would love to.
Oh, okay. You're on a roll, Mr.
Yes,
Secretary.
I'm on a roll. Yeah, so this is the same premium pay going back to that June 18th date. It's just the assistant because the director is covered under CARES, I believe, for the same reasons. Sure that the assistant was covered as well, and that would also go through the end of 2022, December 2022. So I'll make the motion to approve this resolution.
I will second.
Thank you, Council. We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Council, do you have any questions or concerns or comments or of Secretary Gardapi on this? Hearing none, call for the vote, sir.
Jordan Canuho,
Yes.
George Gardapi, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Hare,
Oh, yes.
Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries. So this brings us to the conclusion of our new business, and our next task is to set our next meeting date. And Council, what are your wishes? We've met twice now in the month. We do have the Thanksgiving holiday coming up on the 25th. I don't know, Jamie, what is the policy on the holiday? Do we give that day and the following day off?
For Thanksgiving, we will have the 25th and the 26th off.
Okay. All right. Good. And of course, tomorrow is Veterans Day, and we're closed on Veterans Day. Carol,
Thursday.
Thursday, yes. So
We have a budget meeting scheduled for the 17th. Isn't that right, Jamie? Did we change it again, or is it still the 17th?
It's still the 17th.
That's when our next budget meeting is.
okay. Now, The COVID committee, Carol, while I have you here, is wanting to hold an ARPA strategic plan, for spending the remaining ARPA dollars with this council. And I saw from Adidra the 23rd of November at 9:30 a.m. for that. I believe that's the date that they would like to have that discussion.
The first one.
The
Yeah.
first one, I think, yeah. And so this is my thought on that. We could maybe use that as a key for setting our next meeting date, either the day before or the day after. I would personally like to see Secretary Gardapi complete the voting on the follow-up to the retreat that we had, where the members, excluding the president, were to be voting on the various projects that had been proposed at that time. And if you could get your votes to Secretary Gardapi, if you haven't done so already, he was going to put those up on some sort of a chart, informational chart, so we could kind of see what the council would like to do. That then would become a very important document that we could circle back with the COVID committee and say, COVID committee, here is the council's, what we're leaning on, what we want to do here. And then we could huddle up at that point with the COVID committee on the 23rd, just to make sure that the things that we're wanting to do are consonant with strengthening the nation in a way that is compatible with all of our planning that we've done to date, so that we know that these projects and the spending of these remaining once-in-a-lifetime monies will be in step with our vision for the nation, a strengthened nation, as we go forward. And
So do you want us to change our budget meeting, or do you think it would?
well, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Let's say theoretically, say we were able to get. I'm gonna for shorthand. I'm gonna call it George's document, finalized amongst us as an internal working document. We could possibly share that then with the COVID committee before the 23rd. Then we could go into the 23rd and do this, and hopefully we can get an agenda jointly put together between the council and the COVID committee to what we're going to do on the 23rd, jointly, as far as we want to be able to say to ourselves with a big degree of confidence that our spending decisions they're strategic in nature. They're not anything we just pulled out of the air and willy-nilly said we want to do, but they're consonant with everything we think we want to do for the Pawnee Nation. So then after that, Carol, conceivably, if we are able to finalize a bulk of what we're wanting to do, then we could go to the budget committee and the COVID committee by way of follow-up afterwards. Conceivably, I don't know how you normally, the budget committee normally interacts with the COVID committee. In other words, which is the chicken and which is the egg? Who goes first? In the ideal world of COVID protocols that we established, would the budget committee make a recommendation first, or would the COVID committee do it and then the budget committee react to that? How does it normally work?
It would be going through the COVID committee first.
So then we would try to reconcile our plan with any strategic thinking on the 23rd. Then we would have something, I guess, that would go back to the COVID committee to say, the council wants to fund the following projects and make sure they're well vetted and legally allowable.
Right.
And once they do that, then we'd be ready to take it to the COVID committee, right? I mean, the budget committee
Yeah.
at that point.
Right.
Oh,
Well, you know,
okay.
okay, so on the 17th, when our regular budget committee is scheduled, we do have regular business.
Okay, well, go ahead and go ahead.
We'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead and keep that meeting right there and do
Okay.
that just for our just basic regular day-to-day business. And
Okay.
then after we can schedule another one after our joint strategic meeting on the 23rd. That'll work better, I think.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
and you chair both committees, right? So,
Yep.
so
My life.
so you could you don't have a life anymore, I see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe you could work with your committee, the COVID committee, and schedule a COVID follow-up meeting, say, with the after the 23rd, shortly thereafter, and then to be followed by a budget committee to entertain whatever emanates from the COVID committee. And I guess we're still sort of entertaining and receiving some proposals. And that's okay. That's a good thing, you know, but they can all be stirred into the big picture at this point. I know that I have one that I've been wanting the Laura May and Riva to do for the Pawnee Evening Stars, wanting some startup help with their startup monies for the nation, startup costs to get their feet on the ground. And I'd like to get that into the hopper at some point. So where does that leave us on our next business council meeting? I lost the thread there, Mr. Secretary.
Oh, that says we can meet November 30th on Tuesday.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna want to have my Thanksgiving meal before the next meeting.
Yeah, you know, there's is anyone planning to take a super long weekend, or hopefully we all are in an ideal world, but 30th, what time? You're on a roll, Mr. Secretary. What time?
It's probably, I would say we should probably start a little earlier since it's going to be 3 weeks. In case we have more, our agenda might be a little larger.
You know it will.
So, I mean, I'm open to starting earlier in the day than 5:30.
I start finals week that week. And if we can do it after 3 o'clock and try to cut it off about 7 so I can study, it's going to be a very busy week for me.
So would 3 o'clock work for you?
Yeah, I'll be back in town by then.
Dr. Evans?
Now it would of course be better for me if it was after work hours, so I don't have to take time. But you know, if that's what people need, I can take time and do. So you know, if it's what you guys need, I can make 3 o'clock work.
How about you, Vice President Canuho? Are you good?
Yeah, that's fine. I can make that work. Tuesday, November 30th at 3. The only question I would ask the council is if and when we're going to start having our meetings in person again. I've had some tribal members ask that. I think that's been a question that's come up.
As soon as I recover from my bad back. Hey.
Just have to
Evans,
wheel you in. We'll just wheel you in.
Dr. Evans might have to rig me up with some sort of a chairlift of some kind. Get into my vehicle, but
You know, the only thing that I see, and I'll just put it out there, is you know, the dangers of driving at night, especially for Miss Carol. going all the way to Tahlequah,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know, with the deers, you know, that's all I would say. And I think that anybody would understand that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very
Could
much so.
Could we do both? Like, do in person, but if somebody wants to join in virtual on our council, it's fine too.
Now,
Please.
that's possible. Either that or we could put Carol up at the Pecan Grove, you know.
There we go.
I could
I
test,
don't,
I could test it out, huh?
I don't know which is more scary, the Pecan Grove or driving at night.
Yeah.
At my age, I think I'd take my chances at the Pecan Grove.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you this, I've hit plenty of creatures at night between here and Pawnee. My car bill on repairs is unbelievable. God's been watching over me every time though.
Well, you got the world's best chauffeur, so
Yeah.
you should be in
I
good
sure
hands.
do. I
I
sure
sp-
do.
I think Carol falls asleep at the Y and wakes up in Tahlequah.
Yeah, my driver, he's real alert.
And then your driver falls asleep in
Ah.
Cleveland. I don't know how you guys get home.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay, so we say in the Tuesday at 3 then. Actually, you know, I'm sitting on the fence on this one. It's the wishes of the council as to in person or virtual, you know, but I had said all along that for the out of town council persons that have to drive, i.e. Jordan and Carol, that you guys have a buy. In other words, you could appear virtually, and we could take care of that in that fashion because it takes a lot of your day, you know, to commute back and forth, you know. And so, if you'd rather do it virtually, we can accommodate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sammy, for thinking of me. Me and my brother, my chauffeur.
Yeah.
But
It's not just around the corner, okay?
It's sure not.
No.
is the COVID is kind of leveling out? Is that what you're thinking, Vice President and Dr. Evans? Are we? You think it's safe to begin meeting in person for us and our staff?
I'll say this much. We were in a meeting, Councilman Evans and Secretary Gardapi, you was in that meeting yesterday. We were in a circle probably of 20 people, shoulder to shoulder. And nobody was wearing a mask, but you know, that was just how it is over there. I say that because everybody's been vaccinated. I mean, the vaccination's happening. I mean, people do wear masks and those kinds of things. Funeral services, I do a lot of those, and the thing with it is that everybody wears a mask in there. I think if we all wear masks and just, you know, keep in mind everything that's been said, I think everything's going to be, in my opinion. All I said is because that's how I've seen it, just with the public gatherings that we've had. I mean, you look at it this way, Thursday, we're going to have our veterans dance. I mean, the people who would probably show up to our meetings is probably not going to be as big as the numbers that's going to be there at the Roundhouse. So it's going to kind of look funny if we have a veterans dance full of our tribal members and our council can't meet in person to have a meeting. I mean, that's just the perspective I would think that would be given.
Yeah, there is that for sure.
I absolutely agree. And I think that, you know, at this point, as he said, you know, all of us are vaccinated. I think, you know, in our, you know, where people can be separated and have that distancing, then I don't even see a point to them having a mask on. In that, I think if we have a crowd of folks and they've got to be next to each other, then, you know, we can't be sure in that case that folks have been vaccinated, then maybe using a mask would be an appropriate thing. But yeah, I think we absolutely should move towards in-person meetings.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, Donna has always been my barometer because she's been keeping herself safe. Donna, would you feel safe?
Oh, yes, yes, I'm feeling safe now.
By golly, how can I argue against all of the weight of the evidence here? So, you know, if you guys want to do that, then we could certainly do that. So
I'm good
let's
with the
plan.
in-person
Let's
virtual
plan on
option.
let's plan on the 30th, and we'll get to see each other in person then, huh? We'll do it, Jamie and Brian, let's do it in person, 3 o'clock on the 30th.
And
And
do I have the virtual option in case I?
yes, you do, Carol, honestly,
Okay.
you do, and so does Vice President, you know, because honestly, I mean, that takes the commute takes up your whole day, you know. And so I want to conserve on you guys' time. I know you guys are working hard. You're serving on doing a lot of committee work, and so you certainly have my buy on that.
Okay, good. I don't want to stay at Congrove. No, no, I would.
Okay, all right, good. Well, that's settled. Then it's 3 o'clock on the 30th in person, and that's the way it's going to be. With that, brings us to our adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President. We have a motion, and thank you, Dr. Evans, for the second. All in favor, say Noah. Oh,
Noah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary, I usurped your authority. Please
You
call
just
the
made
roll.
Donna leave. Okay, let's see. Jordan Canuo,
Yes.
George Gardner, yes. Carol Chapman,
Yes.
Cynthia Butler,
Yes.
Donna Harris said yes. Gene Evans,
Yes.
Sammy Kimball.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. We are dismissed, and thank you so much.
Yep.
224.
Jamie and Brian, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.